Thank you very much for joining the second session panel discussion. Earlier, we heard about the connection with mainland China and the ambitions in Shenzhen and Huzhou. Let's spend the next hour to deep dive on Greater Bay innovations. And this panel will be moderated by Ricco Zhang, co-chair of a Green Bond Working Group at Hong Kong GFA, Senior Director of Asia Pacific at International Capital Market Association. Just a note regarding housekeeping for participants online. On the right-hand side of your screen, there are live Q&A, polling, and private chat room functionalities. Make sure you use them and send challenging and exciting questions to our panelists. I can see interesting green shades, on stage, green socks, green dress, and green power suit. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that we can look forward to. Over to you, Ricco.
Thank you very much, Tony. It's great to be here to join the session. You probably note, as highlighted in the President Xi Jinping's speech at the Shenzhen's 40th anniversary last month, the Greater Bay Area underpinned the government's ambitions of more regional integration, a powerhouse of technology and finance and economic prosperity. Given Hong Kong's geographical location and financial expertise, Hong Kong has its role, influence, and potential in the Greater Bay Area. This panel will focus on the development of green finance in the GBA. In May this year, as you know, PBOC, CBIRC, CSRC, and SAFE issued the opinion on financial support for the Greater Bay Area. One of the key points is cooperation on green finance in the GBA. Measures mentioned include piloting carbon emission trading, exploring common green finance standards, encouraging GBA corporates to finance and certify their green projects via Hong Kong and Macau. Hong Kong has green finance at heart. So does the Greater Bay Area. And action has been taken already. Earlier this year, local associations and regulators had proactively prepared to cooperate on green finance in the GBA. On 4th September this year, the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area Green Finance Alliance was officially launched. Today, we are very honored to have the influential experts driving the GBA Green Finance Alliance with us here to discuss the development of the GBA projects. On site in Hong Kong, I'm very happy to be joined by Ben McQuhae, Vice President and Special Advisor to the Chairman of HKGFA, Grace Hui, Managing Director, Head of Green and Sustainable Finance Markets Division, Hong Kong Exchanges Clearing Limited. Then Tracy Wong Harris, Deputy Secretary General of HKGFA. And virtually, there's three more panelists to join us. They are Tianyin Sun Research Center for Green Finance Department, Tsinghua National Institute of Financial Research, Meng Meng, President of Guangdong Emissions Exchange, Secretary General of Guangdong Green Finance Committee. And last but not least, Ying Ling, Director of Strategy and Planning Department, China Emissions Exchange, Shenzhen. So let's kick off the discussion. If I may, I want to turn to you, Tracy, because we just are talking about the Green Finance Alliance for the GBA. Maybe could you elaborate more about this platform and tell us what's this all about?
Sure, thanks, Ricco. The Greater Bay Area Green Finance Alliance was announced at last year's HKGFA Green Finance Forum and was formally launched this September. The GBA-GFA platform is a collaboration between the Hong Kong Green Finance Association, Guangzhou Green Finance Committee, Shenzhen's Green Finance Committee, and the Macau Association of Banks, with the aims to host research and incubate green investment in the GBA. Therefore, the birth of the 5 projects, 3 leading from the Hong Kong, namely Carbon Connect, Green Building, and Blockchain Solar, and 2 projects from mainland, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen separately, which my fellow speakers here today will be sharing more shortly.
Thank you. Then I want to turn to you, Ben. The Alliance supporting 5 green finance related projects. The green building projects, the blockchain solar projects are led by Hong Kong. I understand your team is looking into mobilizing the fragmented solar projects supporting the financing. How do you plan to achieve that?
Thank you, Ricco. I think let me start just by adding a comment to Tracy's sort of introduction to the Greater Bay Area Green Finance Alliance, because what's been created is actually a very powerful ecosystem that's been designed for the specific purpose of accelerating green investments within the Greater Bay Area region. And that of itself is a huge achievement, and Tracy and her colleagues within the participating financial centres across the region deserve a huge amount of credit for the work they've put in actually establishing and creating this powerful platform. And it's up to all of us now, to including my colleagues here today, to try and make the most of what's been created. And so, one of the objectives of the Alliance is to nurture green investments within the GBA, and the blockchain solar project is a project that looks to marry the green energy policy that exists with developments in fintech to achieve 2 outcomes. The first is to showcase new classes of digital green investments, such as digital green ABS, REX, and potentially other sort of offset related investable assets. The second purpose is really to help unlock the potential of solar energy. And within GBA, as everyone will know, we have a number of very high densely populated urban areas, and we don't want that to be a barrier to entry for the acceleration of solar. And so we're looking to develop within this initiative some new ways to finance solar energy projects that are, by definition, smaller solar energy projects, because they will exist in high density areas. And so just to sort of follow on the theme, we've been advocating, in Hong Kong and elsewhere for green finance for some years now. And of course, as everybody knows, and Ricco, you'll know more than anyone, green bonds are first to market in probably every financial centre globally that's committing to becoming sustainable. The reality is, of course, that for most professional and retail investors, we don't yet have a pipeline of investable products, green investable products, and that's something that we're looking to remedy. Okay, we're faced, including with some of the policy commitments that have been made, decarbonisation policy commitments that have been made recently. We're faced with the real prospect that we're going to have finally a lot of green money looking for deployment, but not enough to invest in. So that's something that we're looking at. And another reality, I think, for sort of real economy solar developers is that for small-scale solar, the traditional project finance typically is not available. And so we want to try and find ways to introduce different ways of funding, alternative funding solutions, basically for smaller scale projects. And how do we achieve it? Well, like anything, I think, in sustainability now, we need to build a coalition of the willing. And our first priority has been to recruit partners, so asset owners, tech partners, legal as well. Subsequent phases will focus on issuance and trading of digital green solar assets and other environmental assets, including, of course, figuring out the somewhat complicated regulatory implications. Ricco.
Thank you, Ben. I think this is very interesting, particularly to the audience sitting in here. Just also curious, what is the progress so far, and what would you say the most innovative part of the project?
Okay, so I mean, the Alliance formally launched in September, so very recently. We've been working on the launch and trying to start some development of these projects for some months now. And I think the start has been quite positive. I think we have to recognize the sort of shifting priorities this year. With regards to the solar project, I would say that we're making good progress with the private sector collaboration. We have people like Link REIT, we have Gammon Construction, ACC Solar, all engaged as potential asset partners. We have All Infra as technology partner, and they bring their sort of cutting-edge expertise on blockchain and digital assets to the mix. And we have legal support as well. In Hong Kong, actually within the Greater Bay Area, but of course for this project we're focusing on the launch in Hong Kong, there's actually a lot of public infrastructure that's viable for solar. And so at the moment, I would say we're not having that much success, or not as much success as we would like in relation to sort of public sector engagement. And I think the fact remains that in Hong Kong currently it's still quite difficult for the public sector and the private sector to actually work together in a way that we need to in order to build the ecosystems that we need to really have an impact on green finance that we all want. I think as for innovation, there are a couple of aspects that are innovative. I mean, the very fact that we're designing sort of new 21st century digital green investment products in support of the global imperatives plus regional policy objectives to tackle global warming is itself quite innovative stuff. Being sustainable, as we all know, presents great challenges and opportunities, and frankly, we're all still trying to figure out the magnitude of the opportunity, the magnitude of the challenge. And I would say that no one institution, no one person can have much impact individually, and so the need to build ecosystems is actually paramount. And just returning finally to the comment I made at the outset, we've created, with the GBA Green Finance Alliance, a very powerful ecosystem, and I think that currently is the most innovative aspect of the alliance and the GBA initiative.
Thank you, Ben. We've heard the great development in the solar projects, and the other project led by Hong Kong is the green building one. So Tracy, green building, this is kind of like has its roots in Hong Kong for many years, and Hong Kong actually has the globally recognized BEAM Plus scheme. How does your team cooperate with Hong Kong Green Building Council on this?
That's a very good question, Ricco. But before I answer your question, let me give a quick overview about the green building projects. The GBA-GFA Green Building Projects is a collaboration with the Hong Kong 2050 is Now platform. The goal is to decarbonize the building sector in the GBA to move towards net zero, and also to maximize the green and sustainable finance opportunity. The green building projects will deep dive into 3 key areas. The first one is precisely what you asked, looking at how green building certification measure or incentivize decarbonization. Secondly is to look at any building policy gaps was needed to address to help to accelerate the building sector decarbonization. For example, how do we ensure existing buildings stock operational energy performance is being tracked and measured? Secondly, embodied carbon is not even part of the decarbonization plan. So how can we support the construction industry to reduce carbon and to be more sustainable as part of the building ecosystem? Lastly, conducting pilot projects by working with property owners, financial institutions, and certifiers, and to leverage innovative green finance. Now, go back to answer your questions. Collaboration really is the key to success, actually, in driving the whole green and sustainable finance. And very luckily, under Carrie's leadership in the Hong Kong Green Building Council, CS leadership in BEAM, which is the local certification body, we all share the same visions on how we can do our best to help Hong Kong building sector to move towards net zero. With that view to extend to the GBA, For example, this afternoon I will be sharing some key findings of 2 research reports on green buildings, rating system and policy. And with these 2 reports research, from day one, I worked with both HKGBC and BIM from defining the scope of even which GBRS green building rating system that we should be including for the research to having their valuable feedback to fit into my draft report.
Thank you, Tracy. We will look forward to such research and the presentation in the afternoon then. And also, from an ICMA perspective, we care a lot about the green bonds. And interestingly, in 2019, 61% of the proceeds of the green bond issued in Hong Kong was allocated to low-carbon buildings. This new record high shows the financing needs of green building sector. How will the green building projects of GB Alliance further promote the development? And how will the project add value for the green building industry in Macau and Guangdong?
Sure. So I think Ben has elaborated a lot about the GBA-GFA platform. So also to add to that, I would say that the green building sector is one that is the biggest opportunity and is very absolutely relevant for the dense GBA cities like Hong Kong, Guangdong, Shenzhen, and Macau. So the IFC report estimates $18 trillion additional investment is required in the green building sector in APAC alone by 2030. So back to on the platform, on the promotion, just to highlight, echoing Ben's earlier comment. When the GBA-GFA launched, we have over 4,000 across the GBA's area to dial in at the launch, and we have received a lot of positive feedback. And in terms of add value, we will do real pilot projects working with across the sector, developer, financial institution, certifier, to work together to develop innovative green financing together with tackling policy, incentive, recommendation to really scale up the green building market in Hong Kong and to extend it out to the GBA cities.
Thank you, Tracy. I think another project is about the green supply chain. Let's shift a bit to the panelists online. 孟总，你在广州有。
And Mr. Liu, and you are leading this green finance in Greater Bay Area. And also, we announced this guidelines of the green finance on the supply chain. So this is in the Green Finance Association, and we promote this green finance guidelines, and this is referred to the car manufacturing and the industrial development. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to your invitation for this financial green finance forum. And in the Greater Bay Area, we promote and encourage this cooperation in the Greater Bay Area. So in this backdrop, we promote this guideline. And in the overall, the green finance is in the faster development in China, and in this practice and implementation of green finance, we also encounter some problems. For example, in Guangdong, we have a lot of manufacturers and also these manufacturing-related industries. And this transition demand is very accurate. And in this green finance framework, and some transition cannot be lined up with this green finance framework. So how do we promote this transition? This is our recent target. And for the supply chain guideline on the automobile manufacturer, and our focus is on these car manufacturers. They can transfer their supply chain to their manufacturing and production line and to gain more financial support and also make an improvement. And the grain supply chain, we involve two manufacturers, and the first is the Honda, Guangdong Fengda, and the other is Dongfeng Nissan. So they will also integrate the management experience into our green finance supply chain. And for the GAC Honda, the financing demand is about 1 billion. This is only for one manufacturer, so it has the nature of the finance, green finance. And this kind of demand needs to be in line with the green finance framework. We also have different banks to cooperate, and this is also. We have two successful cases in the lining up with those manufacturers. And in Guangdong, it's one of the most advanced economic city in China, but this kind of economic development is not even. And this green supply chains development can trigger more comprehensive industrial development. In the future, we will still promote the GBA green supply chain industry. For example, the supply chain on the electronics, and this will be the second stage for our guideline on the electronic development and the framework of green finance. And I think there's a very positive feedback to the economic development in Guangdong. And for our institute, and this is. We have over 30 legal persons, and we covered over 100 green finance experts. And Dr. Man is one of the Guangdong Green Finance Association, and we also established 10 task force. For example, the green insurance, green bonds, etc., and to promote our international collaboration. With other institutes, and to strengthen the transition in the green finance. And in the next stage and the future, we want to establish a comprehensive green finance ecosystem and enlarge our business and collaboration in the global level, and to reach our carbon neutral target. Thank you for your introduction on the industrial supply chain. So this is a combination of the supply chain with the green finance, and you also mentioned some successful cases. Would you please share with us some successful elements in those cases? For example, the transparency of those information in the cases, and this transparent information is very important in the completion of the supply chain. So how do you achieve this successful supply chain? This is a very good question. In the GAC Motor, the successful cases in the JC Motor and the two branches of JC Motor, and they followed the guidelines, and the guidelines was announced in September, and we have already conducted three researches on the financing requirements. And in Guangdong, we also cooperate with the carbon emission report, and the disclosure requirement is also paramount, and we will find the appropriate time to make the disclosure. Thank you. And we will talk about Shenzhen. Shenzhen emission exchange is also very important. And Ms. Lin, and you have a rich experience in the solid waste control and the control of the emission. Would you share with us some cases? Thank you for your invitation. And the framework of Greater Bay Area, we have guidelines of the integration of the green finance in Greater Bay Area. And the framework, we have kind of the solid waste and the solid this waste treatment guideline. The solid waste is increased by 17.3% year on year. And the comprehensive utilization of the solid waste is only 10%. And in Hong Kong, the solid waste, including the industrial solid waste and commercial solid waste, the growth rate is also high. And in Macau, they also have the hazardous the waste. So in the Greater Bay Area, we have this high-level solid waste. And last April, Shenzhen has become the zero waste pilot city in mainland China. So based on these plans, we want to have some experiment on the collaboration and the coordination on this solid waste management. And we will also establish this international technology coordination network. And for the market mechanism, we propose to establish a solid waste support platform. And Ricco also mentioned about the research development. And in terms of the implementation, we also make great progress. And we have this solid waste exchange hub. And for the first phase, we have established this hazardous waste exchange platform. And last year in Shenzhen, over 7,000 companies produce hazardous waste, and the treatment and for this hazardous waste, and only 700 companies. So there's a big gap. So how to bridge the gap? And we also see some companies, it's about 7,000 companies, and they will produce the hazardous waste of 100 kilograms. So how do we solve the problem? How do we solve the problem for those companies? And they have a very weak bargaining power in the solid waste treatment. So we used this platform to help those enterprises. So this kind of a platform is online shopping center. And this kind of a platform is located in Shenzhen, and later we want to expand it to a wider area. And this platform includes the intelligent recommendation and also autonomous monitoring, etc. It's complete the system development, and in the middle of this month, we will conduct the online launch of the platform, and it is expected to be on its operation in December.
As I said, this is phase 1, and phase 2 will be kicked off next year. Thank you. We will be looking forward to this platform. And I hope that our experience can also be shared throughout the Great Bay Area at the platform. Our discussion, this session of our discussion, is on green finance. As you mentioned, how green finance supports this project. Can you please share with us, and what green finance related measures have you taken to tackle the solid waste resolvement? Yeah, I understand the theme of the discussion is green finance in Great Bay Area. Now, let me share with you how green finance supports the solid waste treatment in Great Bay Area. At the Great Bay level, we have a couple of suggestions. So, for example, we set up a fund dedicated to support waste-free businesses. We also used marketized measures to deal with the solid waste. The municipal governments also issued policies to support such agenda. So regarding green finance, we implement the green finance services into our treatment of a solid waste treatment. And specifically, first, which is also a very important part, we help the businesses to grow. And through evaluation, we can provide services to businesses in capital, for example, by way of renting, by way of leasing. We also encourage banks to develop some green products to support their green businesses, particularly in the solid waste treatment for those solid waste producers. In addition, we hope to provide one-stop service at the platform. At the government side, there's a fund, there's capital, and for the businesses, they need access to the capital. So we provide one-stop service at the platform. Why do we need such trading mechanism? It's because that people have different levels of capacity in treating solid waste. There are so many cities in the Great Bay Area. When they resolve the solid waste, some of them have a stronger capability, some don't. So in the cities, we can set up a trading platform so that the businesses can trade the treatment capabilities at the platform. I also want to mention a point that on the 4th of September this year, the Alliance, under guidance from Dr. Ma and under the support from the government authorities, we kicked off the Great Bay Area Green Finance Alliance with the headquarters in Shenzhen, and the secretariat is in Shenzhen. And in the future, we will make the best use of the platform, and by working together with green finance associations in Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and organizations in McQuhae, we hope that we can find more projects. We will play our role well and to promote the projects in the future.
Before we continue our discussion, I want to remind the audience online, we do have the Q&As probably toward the end of the discussion, so please feel free to enter your questions. Second is we actually have a polling. Please show it on the screen. The question is, what is crucial to further promote green finance in the Great Bay Area? a few multiple choices: cross-border cooperation, incentives from the official sector, investor education and improvement on investment channels, issuer and borrow education, and last, policy guidance. So maybe feel free to join the polling, and we will show the result in the screen in a minute.
Is that watching CNN?
Yeah, it's more interesting than the U.S. presidential election. Maybe any of my panelists to comment, or also the colleagues from online, any comment on the results?
Well, I would say it's interesting that incentives from the official sector, so government incentives, is first, most people's sort of first choice. I personally, I would have chosen. Well, actually, what I would have chosen if it were one of the choice would be sort of greater collaboration, because that really is key to unlocking the potential of what we're creating here. What do you think, Tracy?
Well, I think it was quite surprised when it first come on. It's like winning it all the way in the incentive, but now it seems to be quite evening out with collaborations and also policy guidance. So very, very interesting.
I guess they're all quite important to make the green finance happening in the Great Bay Area. Actually, I designed the question, so I think they are relevant. Anyway, okay, thank you for joining the polling, and let's continue the discussion. So, Grace, Hong Kong is the like a financial center in the Great Bay Area. It's very good to have different experts to join the session here. So, how could people get to know these green finance initiatives if they are not attending the event? I know Exchange is working on providing a solution for this. Hong Kong Exchange just launched a sustainable and green exchange, the stage. I like the name very much. So how is the preparation for the official launch going?
Thank you, Ricco, and thank you to the Hong Kong Green Finance Association for the opportunity to introduce this new HKEX platform. It's called STAGE because it's an acronym for Sustainable and Green Exchange. It has three main purposes. Firstly, it aims to promote the visibility, transparency, and accessibility of green and sustainable investment products. Secondly, it aims to provide investors with information of all these investment products on one database. And thirdly, it is very important that we continue to raise awareness of green and sustainable investments so that this platform also serves as an education and advocacy platform promoting knowledge sharing and stakeholder engagement in sustainable finance. We often hear about knowledge gap and we often hear about data gap in ESG. We've been hearing for so many years. And as a responsible exchange, we need to do something about it. And a lot of investors also query about greenwashing. They go, we've made all these investments in these instruments. So what is the environmental impact or societal impact in our investments? So that's why we think it's important to build an online repository of information. The preparation is going very well. We hope to unveil, firstly, the green, social, sustainable, and sustainability-linked bonds, as well as ESG-themed exchange-traded products information before the end of this year. We will also put some case studies which will show the innovative financing solutions that you may see in other jurisdictions in the green and sustainable area. We will also have research materials as well as news and events so that people can keep updated as to what's happening in the Greater Bay Area, for example. So to answer your question, Ricco, STAGE is HKEX's effort to promote Hong Kong as Asia's Green Finance Center by facilitating ESG integration in investment decisions as well as education and advocacy on impact investing.
Thank you, Grace. That's very good to hear. And I know the STAGE probably will have great ambition for the whole Asia-Pacific region, not just China, but specifically for the Great Bay Area, how the STAGE will support the green finance development in the Bay Area, and maybe as there's any concrete plans you can share with us.
We're very, very fortunate that the central government has designated Hong Kong as the green finance hub for the Greater Bay Area. And further, in light of the recently announced Wealth Management Connect scheme in the Greater Bay Area, there will be plenty of cross-border investment opportunities. Particularly, there is a disproportion between the proceeds from green bond issuances in the GBA and the GDP of the area, which reflects that there's potential growth opportunity in the sustainable financing area. The green finance potential of the GBA is expected to grow 3 times to $450 billion in 2030. And this is even before President Xi's statement about neutrality by 2060. So STAGE will help Hong Kong to ensure Hong Kong is well positioned to capture the growth of sustainable investment in the Greater Bay Area by bringing together issuers and investors. Now, Ben earlier had mentioned that there is lots of green money looking for deployment in green investment products. So we want to drive the development of sustainable market-based solutions. We think that the majority of sustainability-linked investments in the GBA would likely be in the carbon-related products, renewable energy, green buildings, and transport projects. So we will continue to work with the Hong Kong Green Finance Association and other stakeholders to prioritize the development of these investment products. We're not limited to bonds, I want to say that. We want to think about other things like index products, equities, structured products, anything that we can think of to drive the liquidity of green and sustainable investment opportunities.
Thank you, Grace. I'm sure all the audience will appreciate that.
I would like to ask the question to our colleague in Beijing. It's Dr. Sun. He is also online. I know that in September, there was a network for green financial system, which is a very comprehensive and a technical seminar on environmental risks. And it was a very detailed analysis for financial institutions. This analysis is very critical. And Dr. Sun is one of the authors of this paper, of this research paper. So Dr. Sun, will you please share with us from the environmental risk point of view, what is the result of your research? And for financial institutions, what will be the implementations? Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. So can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Apologies, Rachel. So I know it's a long name and it's difficult to give a full name of our research. It's my pleasure to be here at the annual forum. And I listened to different speakers just now. I also got to know about the updates for the green finance growth in Great Bay Area, and we're going to talk about capacity building as well. I hope that in the future we can also cooperate with each other. Ricco, you mentioned about the report. we issued two reports actually. One is for the financial institutional environmental risk analysis. The other is about case studies. So the first report is a simplified edition of the full report. So Dr. Ma is the member of a monitoring committee of NBSA, and I was one of the members. The second report, which is about the case studies, has over 600 pages.
And the report is the most comprehensive report on the financial risk and green finance developments in the world. And from my perspective, I want to emphasize the target and the purpose of green finance and what's the impact and influence of the environmental guidelines on green finance and what's the value of those reports. The one purpose of the green finance, just as you mentioned before, is to solve the problem of financing on this green projects and the green industry. So this is a very big target for green finance. And another purpose for green finance is to avoid the risk arising from the environment and the climate, and to strengthen the stability of green finance ecosystem. And Dr. Ma's report on this finance evaluation in September also mentioned those purposes and how to avoid the financial risk. The ERA, the environmental risk analysis, and we also mentioned two statistics. One is risk, and another is opportunities and the return and yield. By conducting the environmental risk analysis, it helps us to avoid the risk and also quantify the potential yield and the return. So this is the micro background, and we return to the conclusion Ricco said before, and we just cluster the methodologies and the fundings of other reports, but the conclusion is similar, although the methodologies are different. And from the equity investment, for example, the coal and the steel and the cement and the concrete. If we want to realize the target of carbon neutrality in 2060, and those industries, the evaluation of those industries will decline by 40% to 80%. And for the loans of the banks and this debt loans and the bad debt will also increase. But for the green energies, for example, the wind and the solar energies, and in the transition period, they can gain additional returns and profits. And their returns can be increased by 20% to 17%. And also this bad debt rate will be declined sharply. So those are the conclusions I want to share with you. Thank you. Dr. Sun. And we also talked about the findings and the research. So from your point of view, how do we apply those conclusions and findings in the Greater Bay Area green finance projects? How do we apply it in the green finance strategy in GBA? The implementation and the application includes two parts. First is to recognize the risk and also to recognize the green projects and the potential profits and returns in those green projects. And with the macro environment of 2016 carbon neutrality, and this will bring the extra returns on those green industry. And many people are aware the profits increase in green projects, but they don't have a clear idea, and it's hard to quantify before. And based on the research, and those figures can articulate the benefits of green projects' profits. This is the first point. Second, other than the transition risk and opportunities, we have to focus on the physical risk. For example, the risk from the extreme climate, for example, the drought and the flood, and also the typhoon and the etc., the natural disasters. So in the ERE, in this plan, it's necessary for us to mitigate the natural and the physical risk in the future. And we have to take those risks into consideration and to make a very correct investment strategy. Thank you.
Left, and I see questions coming in. Maybe we just pick up a few to respond. The first question, can it be envisioned that emissions rights permits from China be traded on Hong Kong platforms? What are the obstacles today, and how likely can we solve them in 2 years? Any quick response?
I think, first of all, I think we must build a carbon exchange first. If we were to do any of this emissions trading permits from China, I think Hong Kong alone cannot do it. I think we probably need to partner with the Greater Bay Area to consider this carbon exchange. I think it is necessary, and Hong Kong alone there's not enough liquidity. So.
Thank you, Grace.
Sorry, can I add
yes.
a couple of thoughts on just in response to that? I think there's actually a lot of discussion currently in Hong Kong and within the Greater Bay Area region about carbon, because of course, in order to meet the decarbonisation commitments that are now concrete decarbonisation commitments, thanks to President Xi and of course other leaders in the region who have sort of followed that lead. There are many companies, with the deeper carbon footprints, the sort of highest emitters, who are potentially waking up with a sort of new reality, a new dawn that's about to hit them. And of course, the question is, well, how do you decarbonize? Well, within China, as people may know, there have been a number of sort of pilot ETS schemes for quite a few years now, including in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. And so we have on our doorstep actually a reasonably mature sort of ETS. And so as the sort of the nationwide, I suppose, ETS scheme is rolled out within China, then there has to be a platform for emitters to manage their carbon, and of course all things point to an exchange. And now, the challenge for green finance is, of course, you can only raise so much capital domestically. You need to be able to attract sort of international capital, and of course within a GBA context, it's a perfect. Well, there's a perfect opportunity, one would assume, with Hong Kong as a sort of mature financial centre with a sort of lead role for green finance. We have existing ETS schemes that exist just next door, and so it's a question of course pulling it all together. So in response to the question, it's not easy to do because cross-border assets and different regulators, you've got to figure out how to create the sort of a transparent market and the pricing and the registry and all these sorts of things. But it's an opportunity. I think it's there for the taking, and I know lots of people are already looking at that and working on it.
Maybe I just add a little bit to that. To answering that question, this is precisely why we have a Carbon Connect project as one of the 5 GBA GFA projects. And we have Dr. Ma Jun and we have Professor Qi leading this effort, and also Meng Meng and also Mr. Ge from Shenzhen is also part of this group in really looking at using the GBA platform. How do we find Hong Kong's role in helping, in facilitating that? Like Bond Connect, Stock Connect, and how about Carbon Connect? So this is really what we are working on. We are talking to all the local stakeholders and really looking into how to take this further.
Great. Actually, as it happens, we have 2 experts from Guangdong and Shenzhen on the emission exchange. 那孟总，林毅，你们有没有什么
So any suggestions from Ms. Meng and Lin Ying? For the Carbon Connect and also the discussion on carbon markets, at present, they are very meaningful. And in Guangdong and Hong Kong, Guangdong is conducting this negotiation, discussing continuously with Hong Kong and Macau. And after this discussion, we will promote and facilitate the development of the platform. And we also have official channels for the platform's negotiation and the communication, like the Guangdong and the Hong Kong communication platform. And for the Carbon Connect and the Carbon Market Connect, in Shenzhen, in the action plan of support this carbon markets collaboration with Hong Kong. And this become our task and also one of the action in our future action plan. And we can gain the support from the government and also the accumulation of experience of the previous carbon exchange. And we can promote and facilitate this development.
Stock Exchange probably will think about that. Then the next question, what is Hong Kong's role in the Green Finance Alliance and what advantages do Hong Kong have? I think we cover a bit. Anything you would add, maybe Tracy?
I think, we have covered extensively on this. I think the GBA drive large, huge demands, and also following the China neutrality, carbon neutrality by 2060. So it will even probably double up on the demands from the GBA area. And Hong Kong, good at what we do as a capital market, we are in the position to really channeling the necessary green and sustainable finance capital to really fund this demand in the GBA area.
Grace, you have anything to add?
I completely agree.
Thank you very much. We probably should wrap up, and we are running out of time. Maybe any last comment, just one sentence on the your advice how to develop the green finance in the Great Bay Area, like the crucial thing in your mind.
Okay. Thank you. I would just follow on with one remark from Tracy's last comments about what Hong Kong's role and how Hong Kong can really contribute to this alliance platform, and that is really to coordinate all of the Hong Kong stakeholders and bring them sort of by pushing and shoving if needs be, all the Hong Kong stakeholders into this new GBA green finance ecosystem.
And I'll follow on that. The cross-agency steering group set up by HKMA and the SFC with 5 other parties, the Insurance Authority, HKEX, the Monetary Provident Fund Schemes, Financials and Services Treasury Bureau and the Environmental Bureau. We're working very hard on 2 work streams. One is regulatory work stream, looking at taxonomy, what is green and what is not green, as well as other regulations that will help to avoid greenwashing. Then we have the market development work stream, looking at the whole ecosystem, capacity building, and awareness, as well as fintech in the Greater Bay Area. So I think, as Ben said, collaboration, stakeholder engagement, working together is very important to help drive this development.
Yeah, so I completely agree. Collaboration, stakeholder engagement, and policy incentive. And I would just wrap it up by saying, calling out the elephants in the room, that I think with China again committing to the 2060 carbon neutrality, I think Hong Kong, we should have a firm commitment, setting directions in really working in line with our China.
那3位在线上的同事，我们最后一句话，
Last sentence for the green finance in Greater Bay Area.
Okay, so by participating in the forum today, I also want to join you calling for cooperation, because Great Bay Area economically or whatever it is, Great Bay is a great area for cooperation. Through our exchanges, we hope that we can work together to get more experience in growing green finance in China. Okay, and also Ms. Lin. So this is the personal opinion. I want to have more cooperations with other. I want to see more cooperation with other governments in the Great Bay Area in treating solid waste in the region, and at research institutes and the markets and different institutions. We hope that we can cooperate with more with each other more, and also Ting. So thank you, Ricco. In China, the government already announced that there's the pledge that China will be carbon neutral in the middle of the century, and through the Great Bay, from the GBA Green Finance Alliance, all the cities in the area will work together and hope that everybody plays its role, and through green finance vehicles, we can help the country realizing this goal. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We don't want to stand between the audience and the lunch. So thank you all for your listening online. And I just hand it back to Chaoni.